From the palatial Mars Studio in the heart of San Francisco, a Kiff and Ang production. It's the Kiff and Ang Podcast. Online at kiffandang.com. Sign up to be a Patreon so they can start paying me. Kiff and Ang.
Welcome to the Kiff and Ang Podcast. And we have got such an awesome episode today, especially if you're into that whole serial killer genre. And we're going to be talking about one of the scariest and one of our favorite serial killers out there, Richard Ramirez. But before we do, we've got to give a big special shout out to
Yes.
You got those names.
We have to give a shout out to Lori Trosper. She is one of our recent subscribers on YouTube. Lori, thank you so much. In all sincerity, I have known Lori for many, many years. And Kiff, you did not know this, my broadcasting experience started with Lori as my first co-host. So,
Lori, thank you. Oh, wait, I'm not supposed to sing. Not part of the contract.
and I also want to shout out to our VIP patron, and that is Renee Ciccioni. Each month, Renee has, she's committed to supporting us and supporting our art and our creativity and giving us a little bit of a money stream that allows us to keep our subscriptions for some of our platforms moving so that you guys can watch us on everything. And we have two more patrons. One has decided to remain anonymous. And the other one is Marie Simons. So thank you, Marie Simons. We look forward to seeing you, and we look forward to giving you just a little bit more access to some of our really awesome stuff.
And you know, Angela spends her whole day writing and coming up with this stuff. And if you like what you hear, if you're like, what, I didn't know this, maybe consider being one of our Patreons. It's pretty cool. Just go to patreon.com and look up KIFF and Ang, A-N-G.
Podcast.
Oh, yeah. We don't come up when you just type in Kiff and Ang.
We do on some of the search engines now because we're getting a lot of play.
We're getting
in a
some
lot of
traction
places.
now.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So we're in fact, what was it the other day? I did Kiff and Ang on something, and we were on iHeartRadio, and we came on podcast, and we came up 11th, and I was like, oh my God, no, it's YouTube. That was it. I put in one of our hashtags on YouTube.
See, because we are everywhere. So wherever you listen to anything, you should be able to find us there. And if you're not, leave it in the comments below, and we're going to get on there. We're going to start with Richard Ramirez. He was a serial killer, rapist, and burglar, and better known in modern pop culture as the Night Stalker. He preyed on innocent victims June 1984 to August of 1985 throughout the greater Los Angeles area and here in San Francisco. And it was a scary time. Ramirez was born and raised in Texas, and his big influence in his teenage years was an older cousin, a Green Beret Vietnam veteran, a murderer, a rapist. And his cousin would tell him stories about the rape and killing he did in villages in Vietnam at this formative time in his life when his brain is developing. And I'm sure there was probably some sexuality stuff going on there too.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion though.
I watch a lot of TV because it's part of my research.
That's right.
Okay? That's
only why.
Yeah, exactly. And that's actually one of the signs of sociopathy, psychopathy, and even serial killers. That's one of the, they kill. There's different things about serial killers, which I'm sure we're going to talk about in the future. But the exposure at the time of pubescence to sexual-oriented crimes, which his cousin was showing him pictures of Vietnamese women that he had raped and tortured. And there was pictures of decapitated heads that he sexually abused. So I mean, we're not talking about like Richard Ramirez was like exposed to somebody who talked.
So this same cousin though shot his wife killed his wife in the May of 1973, and Ramirez was there, saw it all happen. And like Angela was just saying, it was this combination of puberty and the influence of his cousin, and it helped create what they call the Night Stalker. It's crazy. And then he dropped out of high school in 9th grade, which is really early.
And he was like 16 when he dropped out at 9th grade. So that's kind of old for 9th grade too.
But I don't know, maybe it's a different time. He dropped out of school in the 9th grade and he moved to California at the age of 22.
And in California is when he began his whole new career. He started the Night Stalker spree in June of 1984. He brutally stabbed Jeannie Vincow, 79 years old. He stabbed her to death in her sleep in Glassell Park, Los Angeles. In March 17th, 1985, he then shot Maria Hernandez in the face outside her home in Rosemead, California. Now, this is incredible. Hernandez narrowly escaped death by being shot in the face, because when she encountered the Night Stalker, she put her hands up and she had her keys in her hands, and the bullet ricocheted off a key. All right.
Guardian angel was with her that night.
Oh my gosh. So then Ramirez heads into the house, and her roommate, that was Dale Yoshi Akazaki, age 34, had heard the whole thing outside and was hiding behind a counter. And the Night Stalker knew she was there. And when she put her head up to take a look, because he was being very quiet to see if he was gone, shot her and killed her right in her face. So that was the end there. He then left the house, and within an hour of this all happening, he then carjacked a car from 30-year-old Cy Leanne Veronica Yu in Monterey Park. He pulled her from her car and he shot her twice, and she was pronounced dead on arrival. So that's 3 women he's tried to kill in one night, and he's stolen a car.
Did he know Maria Hernandez? Did he know her, or was it random?
That was a completely random. And that's one of the most frightening things about the Night Stalker. And I know this is going to have like a strange effect on you after this words. We're going to need to talk about a recent occurrence.
Because I was broken into 2 nights ago, and that's why this podcast is taking a little longer to and I haven't even, I'm literally processing as Angela's speaking right now. Keep going, Ange. Just keep going.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm here for you. I'm here for the podcast.
All right.
You need to be so secure in your home. Double block everything.
Because of so much crime in one day, and a survivor, Hernandez, who was able to block the bullet, media suddenly began to give a lot of coverage to the crime. And so there was a lot of attention, and a description began to emerge of who this guy was. And there was some description of some long curly hair. So then on March 27th, 1985, Ramirez then returned to the scene of a previous burglary in Whittier, California.
So if you think this has been interesting, join us for the next episode and part 2 of Notorious Crimes of San Francisco, Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. The opinions and topics discussed in any Kiff and Ang production or show are meant to be controversial, provocative, and possibly create a conversation that is not already being had. The most important thing to remember about this production is that it has zero educational or historical value other than from a purely popular parody perspective. By listening to this podcast, you understand that it is solely for entertainment purposes. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, parody, scholarship, and research. Kiff and Ang Productions is meant to provide parody in an already difficult life. If you find no humor or entertainment in our productions, well, for goodness sakes, don't listen.